I now give the floor to the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Thank you, Madam President. We celebrate today the 79th anniversary of the San Francisco Conference, during which the founding states of the United Nations, including my country, Syria, adopted the UN Charter and entrusted the Security Council with the primary responsibility of maintaining international peace and security, hoping that our collective endeavors in this regard will be swift and effective. But contrary to our common will, the three Western permanent members of the Security Council diverted the Council from its mandate. Thus, the Council remained silent when they or their allies violated international law and the principles and purposes of the Charter. They have used the Council as a platform to target several member states, to alienate them, and to promote baseless accusations, as we have heard repeatedly today from the three Western permanent members. The ongoing barbaric Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people in Gaza for more than 7 months has proved once again the falsehood of these positions. It has proved their hypocrisy when they pretend to care for human rights. It proved that they lack the minimum that qualifies them to contribute in maintaining international peace and security. These states stood by the Israeli occupation entity. They provided it with political, media, and financial support. They opened their weapons warehouses, thus emboldening it to pursue its crimes against the Palestinian people and citizens of other countries of the region in an attempt to escalate the situation in the region and to drag the region to an open regional war. Furthermore, the American administration used the veto right 5 times in a few months to prevent the Security Council from ending the genocide perpetrated by the Israeli occupation and to prevent the full membership of the State of Palestine in the United Nations. The US administration and its allies also prevented the Council from acting to put an end to the repeated Israeli aggressions against the Syrian territories and prevent their recurrence. They even prevented the Council from adopting a press element that condemns the terrorist Israeli attack on the Iranian consulate building in Damascus. The OCHA representative, Mr. Ramesh, told us in his briefing that a humanitarian worker was killed in Deir Zor. But he failed to mention that his killing came as a result of an Israeli aggression, an Israeli bombardment of the Syrian territories, and that his death is similar to the killing by the occupation forces of more than 140 humanitarian workers in Gaza with the support and the arming and funding of the American administration. Madam President, the Syrian government continues to promote and develop the working mechanisms of the different state institutions. In the previous period, a series of high-level dialogues was held with representatives of the different factions of the Syrian society. We have also organized political, economic, cultural, civil, and youth events to consolidate dialogue and participation. A few days ago, Law number 19 was adopted. It organizes the Ministry of Information and stipulates a series of provisions aiming at developing media work, guaranteeing free media, and promoting the right to freedom of expression. We are also preparing for the constitutional and national elections in view of enhancing the role of the state institutions and to preserve the sovereignty, security, and stability of Syria. In parallel, and despite the existing challenges and the emerging challenges as a result of the Israeli aggressions and the ensuing growing tensions in the region, the Syrian government continues to spare no effort to improve the humanitarian and living conditions of the Syrians, to provide the basic services, provide the needed facilities for the return of the displaced and the refugees. We persist in adopting other measures as well that some Western countries insist on ignoring or underestimating instead of recognizing and supporting. Madam President, the efforts of the Syrian government and its partners, including the United Nations, are confronted with terrorism challenges and the illegitimate presence of US and Turkish forces on parts of the Syrian territories and their destabilizing role. Their plundering, along with their proxies, of our national resources. In addition to the UCMs that are being imposed by the US administration and the EU, and which exacerbate the suffering of the Syrians, depriving them from basic services. These UCMs increase inflation, poverty, unemployment, and hinder financing development and the implementation of early recovery projects. Syria reaffirms the need to end the illegitimate foreign presence on Syrian territories and calls for an immediate, full, and unconditional lifting of UCMs. We emphasize the need to review the structure of the work of the United Nations in Syria and to limit their mandate and activities to the UN offices in Damascus in full coordination and cooperation with the Syrian government. There is also a need to end the abnormal situation imposed by exceptional conditions that are valid no more, including by closing the Gaziantep office, which represents a political and financial burden for the United Nations. My country, Syria, reiterates its position vis-à-vis the so-called Brussels Conference on supporting the future of Syria and the region. The conference convenes without coordination and without the participation of the main party concerned, which is the Syrian government. We affirm that this conference is but a show organized by some states in order to divert attention away from the devastating consequences of their UCMs, to announce pledges that are never met, and to reiterate discriminatory, politicized positions that run counter to the principles of humanitarian work. Madam President, the Syrian government reaffirms its commitment to a political process that is Syrian-led and Syrian-owned without any external interference in a way that guarantees full respect to Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This is the fundamental principle enshrined in all the UN-relevant resolutions. Syria looks forward to the 9th round of the Constitutional Committee, and we call upon the Special Envoy to pursue his efforts in line with the constructive proposal that our national team had submitted. In conclusion, Madam President, the Syrians have celebrated a few days ago, on the 17th of April, the 78th anniversary of the end of French colonialism in Syria. We would like to reaffirm from this rostrum that the grandchildren of those heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice to achieve the independence and preserve the dignity of Syria are determined to protect their nation and defend it against the projects of hegemony and colonialism. They are attached to their free national choices, and they will pursue their struggle to free their territories from Israeli occupation and from all illegitimate foreign presence, as well as from the terrorist militias and organizations. They are determined to rebuild what terrorism has destroyed to build a better future for Syria. Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic for their statement.